Hey, it's Guster! Coming at you again. Yeah, I'm making another video. Would you look at that? At the end of Kamen Rider Geats' run, or to be exact, after the last day of it filming, the Toei-based producers of the show sat down with a person from Toei's Tokusatsu fan club and talked about their experiences producing the show. They also gave plenty of information about the nature of the directors, the characters, the writers, and a bunch of secret info about episodes and plot points. I originally translated this producer's symposium back in October, mostly for the wiki, but also for another reason that I'll get into as we go through the thing. And I recently redid it back in February, because I've improved a lot of translations since then, as you can imagine. I'm gonna be reading it over. The fourth Reiwa entry in the Kamen Rider series, Kamen Rider Geats, finished broadcasting all 49 episodes on August 27th. A new program, Kamen Rider Geats, will start in September, but there are certainly many people that still want to immerse themselves in Geats' world. So, this work will have a Toei producer's special roundtable discussion delivered like the works before it. It actually became over 25,000 words long, but please read it through once. The attendees: Naomi Takebe, chief producer. Naomi Takebe joined the Kamen Rider series as a producer starting with Kamen Rider Agito in 2001. She was the chief producer for Kamen Rider Kiva in 2008, Kamen Rider O's in 2011, Tokume Sentai Go-Busters in 2012, and Kamen Rider Gaib in 2013, and Shuriken Sentai Nin Ninja in 2015, among others. Additionally, she is in charge of many other works, including the Toei movie stage, the Shinigami Incident in 2020 and 2022. Minami Takishima, assistant producer. Joined Toei by qualifying for the Tokusatsu program producer recruitment. She was an assistant producer for the works Mushin Sentai Hero Major in 2020 and Kikai Sentai Senkaiger in 2021. Fumiki Yoshikawa, assistant producer. Geats is the first work he has been responsible for as an assistant producer. His personal history prior to entering Toei will be discussed in this roundtable symposium, and it's very funny. State of Mind 1. Reaching the end of the TV series. TTFC. First of all, a few days prior to this interview, the Kamen Rider Geats TV series finished filming the last episode. The first screening of it ended, and now there's nothing left to do but air it. So truly, your work is finished. I would like to hear your present state of mind. Takebe. The filming itself was finished at the end of June this year. Yoshikawa. We were filming for exactly 1 year. Takebe. Fortunately, no one in the cast was ever infected with COVID. I'm certainly happy that we followed this planned schedule perfectly until the end. With filming always wrapping up about 6 episodes before broadcasting, the script was being made around 10 episodes ahead. This is thanks to the help of our brilliant staff. Takishima. As the filming progressed smoothly, even though we thought we were going well ahead of the broadcast, there were several times where the script had to be hastily finished on the filming location. It's because this year we made Yu, which is Yuya Takahashi, write it all by himself. I think that was difficult. However, thanks to our hard work, it's now calming down a bit. We make everyone in the cast work the summer movie campaign and such, and now we're moving on to the preparations for the final stage being hosted from September to October. How about you two? It's your first time being involved with the Kamen Rider series, Takishima, and Yoshikawa. Geats is the first work you've been a producer for. Takishima. By now, the only thing I have to say is, it was fun. Anyhow, even though I'll mess up a few times while working on any project, at the end it'll always total to happy memories. Takebe. Really? I thought it was fairly exhausting work. You're not complaining about it? Takishima. What was frantic, but it was because we did everything we wanted to do, as we should have. The question, please talk about what you regret not doing, was also written in this interview's proposal, but I don't think I have many regrets. Takebe. However, do you feel a sense of freedom now? Takishima. I do. We finished broadcasting up to the final episode. That's important. And then the movie was successfully released to positive reception, so at any rate, I'm feeling relieved. Takebe. Right now is the time when there is exactly no filming and no work, for the first time in a year. Takishima. Personally, I'm beginning preparations for a separate work, but I was able to take a long break the other day. Side note, I feel like Takishima here is talking about Kamen Rider Gav, which started filming in around February or March of 2024. This conversation took place in August of 2023, so Gav would definitely be in the planning stage by now. Takebe, I rushed it a little bit too. Yoshikawa, no one got sick while Geats was being filmed. I don't think that illness comes from the mind, but there might have been some points where we survived with fighting spirit. Takebe, how was it for you, Yoshikawa? Yoshikawa, I entered Toei because I wanted to be a part of the Kamen Rider series, but I didn't really know anything about making television shows at the start, so I've just been learning over the past year. I think that I myself was able to grow alongside everyone in this particularly young cast because I was very involved with them while working. I started crying when I called for them to wrap up because I've had that kind of year. I think that no matter what works I'll be in after this, I'll definitely remember Kamen Rider Geats my whole life. I believe that Geats' toys are very precious to me as well. Takebe, by the way, should we talk about your personal history, Yoshikawa? Truthfully, I've already met you prior to entering Toei. We've worked together. Yoshikawa, that's right. I met Miss Takebe during O's Deno All Riders Let's Go Kamen Riders in 2011, and she helped me. I was playing as a child actor, but because my dream of being in the Kamen Rider series had come true, I quit too early. After that, I became the age to start looking for a job, and I thought I'd go overseas at that time, but at that exact moment, the world encountered the COVID-19 pandemic. While I wondered what I should do now, I thought about how there hadn't been a person credited under both cast and staff in Kamen Rider works since I still liked the franchise. With that, I became determined to join Toei. Takebe, you had also met the assistant director Junpei Shiokawa a while back, right? Yoshikawa, I did meet him. After that, I met Soichiro Hiragane too. When I was in Tomika Hero Rescue Force's Shiokawa episodes, the VE was Hiragane. Takishima. Speaking of, Hiragane worked on the Garo series too, so he was also acquainted with Kokoro Aoshima, who appeared as the hero in Alice Hiromi in 2017's Zero Dragon Blood. Takebe, Let's Go Kamen Riders is so nostalgic. Osamu Kaneda directed it, right? Yoshikawa. That's correct. I remember there was a scene where we jumped down from the dumb lighter, but director Kaneda wasn't happy with the shot, so it had to be redone about 10 times. Actually, I shouldn't be spending so much time on my personal stories. Let's move on to a different topic. State of Mind 2, like a fox. TTFC. It's common to be asked for every season, but looking back on the past year, what kind of things were not course from the original plan? What things surpassed your intentions on the production side? Takebe, first of all, definitely Hideyoshi Kan. He literally took the form of his character. Yoshikawa, he quickly became cooler and cooler. Takebe, I also met Kan on the auditions for Avatar Sentai Dawn Brothers, and he left an impression on me. I decided to gamble on him for the role of Eizukyu in Geats and see what happened. I wasn't fully confident either, and I think it was hard on Kan to do things like retake a shot over 20 times in the early days, but he improved more than expected. He started with voiceovers. Takishima, that's right. In Kamen Rider V-Vice's summer movie, he first spoke as Geats. Takebe, I feel like his turning point was in the winter movie, Kamen Rider Geats' V-Vice movie Battle Royale. Yoshikawa, the person himself said so in another interview. His self-awareness changed during the filming of the winter movie by performing with everyone from the cast of Reiwa and the legends from Kamen Rider Ryuki. Takishima, Koichi Sakamoto was filming his 3 episodes, 13-15, around the same time, and there was a big change there too. Takebe, with the actors from past generations too, there's an impression that Ryoma Takeuchi, Shinosuke Tomari / Kamen Rider Drive, and others also greatly improved during the winter movies. So I think it's definitely good for them to get one big push of encouragement at that time. Takishima, what I remember well is when we filmed the Blu-ray bonus video. Volume 1 was released in April, so it was shot just about when the year was coming to an end. for Quiz Tournament recording for Volume 2, we had to gather all the cast members playing supporters too, and Stardust actor Nanishida was the host, so doesn't that make 11 people? That was the first and last time where so many members would meet in the same room. So, we took a group photo as well, but Khan was strongly becoming a man who wants to be able to properly stand in the center. Of course, since he's the lead, he had been standing in the center up to that point, but after filming the Winter movie and the like, he had an aura of sorts. There it is, high moments at aura, they said it. Takebe, something I liked about Khan was that because he's played sports in his school days, he was able to get a really solid grip regarding the direction from the supervisors. He showed a positive attitude towards being taught, and from the supervisor's perspective, we saw that teaching was worthwhile. In the summer movie too, he was challenged by having to perform a variety of roles, but Junichiro Shiokura also felt his development. Yoshikawa, he said he had a certain presence. Takebe, so I miscalculated about Khan. I'm sorry about that, though I miscalculated in a good way. Takishima, we were bewitched. TTFC, from the beginning, we feel Ace was simply established as being the strongest from the outset and had an absolute presence, but we wonder, was that always the aim? Takebe, yes. That is, when we were first talking with Yu Takahashi, he said, what kind of protagonist do you want to do? At the time, it was at the beginning of a war, and the pandemic hadn't settled down yet. In the midst of that situation, I said that I wanted to see a reliable protagonist, one that's always at the center of the story. Yu took that and completely realized it. At that time, I said I wanted to do a historical drama. Yuya really liked that direction too, so he said something like, I want to write all the episodes. Takishima, is there something you miscalculated? I think this is really interesting that that's where Ace's character originated, that it came from the troubles of like the 2021-2022 eras, all the hell the world was going through back then, and how Takebe just thought that it would be best to just have a character that's constant, that's reliable, and I think that's really interesting. It's not much more to say, I just wanted to point that out. Takishima, it wasn't a miscalculation as much as it was in the Obosphere, but when we were deciding which fighters would become various forms, I had a little bit of unease that we were making it too difficult for the audiences to tell who was fighting. However, the impact that the Max made was stronger than I thought. I think the simplicity of the designs and molding made a big difference. Takebe, the Fox Rider and Cat Rider weren't there. Takishima, an animal motif, as if you think about it now, is an idea that only surfaced in the second half of the design conferences. With animals, you can tell them apart, so we were able to have a lot of different riders until we reached the end. I think that was a success. Takebe, it was natural to need to decide the design concept of the work's primary rider, that is, to say, the protagonist rider, and during the design conference, Shirakuro said, if it's easy to understand, it's good. Shirakuro left the conference when it was time to decide the primary rider, but his prediction was correct, just as you'd expect from him. I think the person who said, I'd want us to do the first White Lighter since a while ago, was Hideki Tajima from Ishimori Productions. Takishima, a part of me was uneasy, but when I was called on, what came out was, oh, it's okay. From there, we proceeded with confidence. Takebe, I thought the Fox and Tanuki Rider motif was well accepted. The design team and molding team did a good job. State of Minds 3, a colorful set of characters. Yoshikawa, I don't have a miscalculation or anything like that either, but Geats didn't have a person in the mentor position throughout the year. Instead, for every chapter, everyone was coming in and saying, I can go in this time period. For example, something like Koji Abe, who played Morio Koganaya, Kamen Rider Mary, who was only in a few episodes at the start, or staying for half a year, like Ryo Kitamura, Niram, or Shiho Harumi, Archimedo. With everyone who came in, a variety of actors participated in Geats, and that was truly great. Moreover, we got actors like Tsubasa Sakayama, who played Win Haraira / Kamen Rider Punkjack, to come back later on after leaving one time. Shugo Oshinari Kirori was also gracious enough to come back again at the end. I think this kind of pattern is pretty interesting. So many actors, as well as people with proven track records, helped with Geats. Takebe. Regarding Sakayama, he started a TTFC spin-off as well. Yoshikawa. Ryushi Sato's Geats as well. Even though he only appeared for about the last 10 episodes, he left an incredible impression. He was incredibly cool. Takebe. More than anything, it makes me happy that everyone gladly took part. For such busy actors to take time out of their schedules. Takishima. I don't know how many people they did with their schedules for Geats, despite being in other stage performances. Yoshikawa. We get them to come to the film studio by saying things like, "The morning of this day is okay!" Takishima. Kekera's Mitsuhashi Shundo, for example. When he first appeared, it was just his voice, but at the exact same time, he was going around the country on stage in Ganryujima. But when he was still traveling, we had a scene where we really wanted him to appear in person, so we made him come back to Tokyo for just one day. With such circumstances, we had to decide what we'd shoot on which day and set up the schedule. I think there were many other parts that had trouble on the set too. For actors who were stitching together their schedules with separate dramas, we checked the live schedules for the people who were playing together for one scene. And if they couldn't appear on a day, then we had to change the scene or negotiate. It was never ending. Takebe, but that did result in something, right? Like with Kitamura, action director Satoshi Fujita was praising him. In his henshin pose, there was agility in each separate motion, and he always executed it well. Takishima. That in particular, what we really tried to convey to them was to make a big impact in one cut. Everyone in the audience doesn't know which character will appear as when as well, since Geats is a system where they're dropping out from the beginning, and that part makes it interesting. We on the management side can't be careless either, so that's why when characters who have already left appeared again for the first time in a while, it's similar to having legend writers from past shows come back. Yoshikawa. And Geats itself still hasn't ended either. Takishima. In that sense, it wasn't strange to disappear at any time, and yet, ultimately, the person who ended up staying until the end was Daichi. Side note, why? Why? Like, none of these guys seem to have been aboard, so whose idea was it to just have Daichi stay until the end? Was it Takahashi? I feel like it was Takahashi. Yoshikawa. That may have been the greatest mixed calculation of them all. Takebe, he really came in and stirred things up. None of the main writers, even Michinaga, can pull you to the evil side. So an existence like Daichi's becomes essential. Of course, if you're bringing someone in, you'll always have to consult with their schedule, but that feeling of tension worked better than expected. The idea of arranging it into chapters was naturally decided on from the very beginning, but once we tried it, we ourselves had fun too. Takishima. Daichi might have been symbolic of that. He was appearing the whole time, but his position changed with each chapter. TTFC. I don't think anyone in the cast could tell what was going to happen next either. New characters were introduced when they didn't expect it. Ichigawa. On that topic, when Khan read Fuku's Fumiki playing scenes from the name of the script, he was pretty surprised. Wait, Fuku? That Fuku? Takebe. Fuku turned down another role for it. We were also surprised to hear that his papers were coming to auditions. However, he didn't really fit the main character role that we were thinking of, but since he went through all that trouble to audition, it only seemed natural. Takishima, they said that strictly speaking, it was difficult to let him appear from the beginning schedule-wise as well. Takebe, so he got lucky, and we got lucky too. We'd already decided that whoever played Scene would be appearing starting in the middle of the show. We said, now that you say it, he is a good fit, isn't he? So the story progressed as planned. But even with that casting, if the papers didn't come from Fuku's side, I don't know if I'd have brought it to him. Even if I thought of him, I would have assumed that surely he's too busy for it. Takishima. So, Fuku has it after all. I don't know what she's talking about here. Yoshikawa. When we were recruiting, there was an age limit. For Geats, we were looking for men aged 18 to 26 years old to play regular characters, and Fuku had just turned 18. It seems like he wanted to apply the first year he could. He said, "I've been waiting for when I was old enough to apply a long time." TTFC. With the position of supporter unique to Geats, and moreover those being characters that transform into Kamen Riders themselves, it was already a perfect fit, wasn't it? Yoshikawa. After we began filming too, each time he saw a new rider form or suit on the location, he would say, "That's so cool." I don't know if he was saying it as a scene or himself. Takishima. While he participated in various other media, he continued to show his love for Kamen Rider. We were glad he was able to appear on the show too. Takebe. When the episode where he finally transformed released, the celebratory mood from all of the fans was amazing. And his speech when it was time to wrap up recording was moving as well. Yoshikawa. Isn't a theme of Geats wishes? With that kind of show, I'm happy that my wish I've had since I was 3 came true in this. I wanted to convey the idea that if you keep wishing for it, it'll come true someday through me transforming into Kamen Rider scene and Geats to kids across the country as well. Takishima. It was an amazing speech. Takebe. Even though acting is his entire career, he started crying the moment he received his flowers. We were deeply moved as well and cried along with him. After that is Reiwa. Right when we were rehearsing the first scene she would appear in, Yume came to the filming studio. Yoshikawa. It was the day he came in for a script writing meeting. That ended and I told him Reiwa was coming in, so he stayed and watched the rehearsal. Takebe. It was probably his first time seeing Ayaka's Namichi's visuals and acting, and I wonder if Yuga was inspired by it. If I think about it, I didn't expect Reiwa to survive as long as she did. Yoshikawa. Well, he was riding along with us. Takebe. It turns out that we'd found an incredibly talented person, and Reiwa, who I thought wouldn't make it as far as she did, was portrayed wonderfully. It was another miscalculation. Takishima. She was good from the start, but kept getting better after that. Takebe. I don't know if she'll ever stop improving. Takishima. She did the homework she brought to the set perfectly. Takebe. I'm not sure if it's okay to say this, but she took a high school test during filming and passed it with flying colors. She talked about normal things as well. You wouldn't think she was a 15 to 16-year-old, and she was very reliable. Takishima. She was excellent in giving answers for interviews and the like as well. I think it's a little because she's been a child girl since elementary school and had many chances to interact with adults, but I feel like that's not all it is. I wonder if it's the talent she had. Yoshikawa. I first met her when she was auditioning to appear in the role of Kozue Hayama in Teraraki Sugihara's episodes 11 to 12. She didn't fit Kozue's role then, but director Sugihara said that if she kept learning, she'd be good. After that, when it was time to decide who would play Reiwa, she was invited again. TTFC. Reiwa's first appearance was Uniqueness, being in episodes 20 to 21, which director Kyohei Yamaguchi was in charge of. Yoshikawa. Since Reiwa would be a regular cast member, the head director Shojiro Nakazawa was there at auditions too. There was a passage in the script that said to laugh like the devil, and she performed that with a lot of energy. Because of that, Sugihara, Nakazawa, and Yamaguchi all seemed to decide that she should play Reiwa. When director Sugihara wrote the report later, he did so gladly. He said, "She was pretty good, right?" Takebe. Director Yamaguchi was also very particular about Reiwa's clothes. He spends a lot of time on it. It's because of him that she's covered from head to toe, including the color compact, the jelly beans. Takishima. Actually, it seems like the image that directors Nakazawa and Yamaguchi had in their heads were a little different, so that was a stroke of luck too. I think that maybe if director Nakazawa was the one filming her first appearance, her clothes would have been different as well, but he left it to director Yamaguchi. Takebe. That's also an interesting part of the Kamen Rider series. Because many directors are involved, a variety of styles mixed together. Yoshikawa. The basic idea of the supporters was solidified at an early stage. I remember when Miss Takebe was writing on the whiteboard while everyone else was discussing. I wonder if a girl would be good for Michinaga. Takishima. On the topic of Michinaga, something like maybe a person who's a carpenter came up for just a moment, didn't it? Takebe. Since Geats, Tycoon, Nago, and Buffa are a group of 4, I was thinking about how to make them not overlap. Yoshikawa. As a result, Michinaga got a heinous young woman attached to him. On the topic of girls, I think their ages might have been being decided at the same time. Takebe. Zine, Kekira, Kyun, and Beriba are described in words that express emotions. Yu is also good at naming. In the management sides, Gidori, Tsumbari, and etc., including the change in perspective, I was always impressed because he thought of names that were simple but nothing alike. Now we're going into the second part of 3 for this interview. I just had to redo 5 minutes of audio because I didn't realize that I wasn't supposed to use my earbuds microphone instead of my iPad microphone. So that's fun. Forward 1. To create uniqueness. Takebe. The timing of Zine's first appearance was planned by Yuya from the start. When the existence of the audience for the reality show of the Desire Grand Prix is revealed, it seems to turn on its head for a moment. We did that between the end of the year and the beginning of the next one. That part of the plot was also one that Yuya took pride in. Takishima. On the other hand, the design work is always planned pretty far ahead, but I remember that when the miscellaneous concept art for the very writer forms of the DGP players and supporters were presented, Yuya really got the idea that fighting as a duo sounds interesting in his head. Takebe. That meeting had its ups and downs. Takishima. Yes, like Kamen Rider Kyun's motif being changed from a dragon to a lion. I don't remember why it was changed. Takebe. It was to have a matching cat motif, wasn't it? At least Yuya was thinking about many things ahead of time, which was helpful. Well, while we're talking about Yuya trying to do things too early, something we kept saying please wait a little bit on and stopping him from doing was the development of Kisara's death and Keiwa's awakening. Yoshikawa. That was a constant back and forth exchange. Takebe. The existence of Sara as comfort was precious. Even if we had to do it at some point, doing it too early would make the work feel bleak, so I made him wait to do it for a considerable amount of time by saying a little further and a little more. As a result, Tycoon's awakening was delayed for 40 episodes. This passage is the reason why I translated this producer's symposium. I was told about this fact by my friend Contral Rose, and I became very curious about it. It's definitely one of the most interesting things mentioned in this symposium, the fact that Naomi Takebe had to continually stop Yuya Takahashi from killing off Sara earlier than it ended up happening. And the reason she gives is that it would feel too dark, but honestly, given how many characters die in Geats, I'm not even sure if that's the only reason, because, well, this is just based on my, thoughts about the fact that one of the only female characters in the show is Death Fodder and was planned to be from the start. But yeah, I really think this is a very interesting fact about Kamen Rider Geats, and, yeah, take it how you will. TTFC. With the style of having not only the writers playing a game, but also having supporter writers and management writers, there are a lot of people, and you have a lot of variation. I think it's differentiated itself from prior so-called many-writer seasons. Takishima. As the series gets longer, it's really difficult to do something like that. Even recently, Kamen Rider Saber was a many-writer season, and Kamen Rider Revice had a fair amount of people transformed by the end as well. We had to discuss how to differentiate it from recent seasons a lot. With Geats' situation having the setting of the Desire Grand Prix first and foremost, we sort of made having an increased number of writers an inevitability. Takebe. But we also intended to make the setting clear, so we had a lot of writers appear in episodes 1 and 2. That was the first difficulty. Each year, the number of writers gradually increases from just 1 or 2 people as the story goes on, but in the case of Geats, it was necessary to make many writers appear at once since people want to see how the system works at the start. In the announcement too, we showed an image of 7 pitch-black writers running closer and wanted to make them think, just what will happen this year? We were picky about that area, but our schedule was tight because we were being so different from the norm. That was a lot of trouble. TTFC. You had to show what the Desire Grand Prix was like at the start regardless. Takebe. Yes. The game was shown less as the middle stage progressed into the second half, but for the first part of the show, everyone was focused on the contents of every episode's game. I was confident because Yuya already had experience with continually writing for shows in the Kamen Rider series 2 separate times before. He wrote in the large amount of characters and items really well. There were naturally things that we couldn't do due to budget and schedule issues, but I think that even so, we were able to do as many things as possible in the most extravagant way possible this year. Forward 2. The personalities of the directors. Takebe. This time, Yuya wrote for each director. He tried to write things that fit the personality and strengths of whichever director was in charge of the episode. Takishima. He was able to do that because he had past experience while writing Kamen Rider X8 and Kamen Rider 01. Yoshikawa. For example, Sakamoto likes to do action with untransformed characters, civilian fights, in his episodes, so he decided to write an episode 13, where the bells get stolen and they can't transform. And it seems like Keiwa, played by Ryuga Sato, can somersault, so he decided to try that when Keiwa became a ninja in episode 27. Yoshikawa. Director Yamaguchi has an affinity for napalm, so he made episodes 20 and 21 a bomb game. Takishima. After that was the scene with riding bikes. That episode he was trying to decide who would drop out next, so he picked based on what would fit the director. Takebe. That way of making things is interesting. I think more than anything, all the directors for Geats did great work. Not just director Yamaguchi, but directors Kazuyuki Horiyoshi, Ryota Tasaki, and Hirofumi Fukuzawa too. Even if just for 1 or 2 episodes, I'm glad they did it. Director Tasaki will be doing the pilot for the next show, Kamen Rider Geats, but he was able to help with Geats in episodes 31 and 32 before starting preparations for that. I'm glad we could work with Fukuzawa in episodes 35 and 36. There wasn't good excitement on the filming set. Takishima. In terms of the filming order, the TTFC special Avataro Sentai Dawn Brothers versus Avataro Sentai Dawn Breeze was ahead of it, but Fukuzawa's work in Geats was released sooner. Takebe. We actually asked him to do this first too. We had already decided to ask him at some point, so we asked him to try out Geats. Director Nakazawa was always saying, I'd like to see some Fukuzawa episodes too. I've worked with director Fukuzawa, him being a director and action director in the Super Sentai series for many years, and I've seen his talents up close, so I believe he was confident that he would create something interesting. And if he was not in charge, as actor and director of Dawn Brothers next, he would have had more time in his schedule to shoot. Takishima. When you listen to the stories from the cast, it was like a completely different way of directing. Things like, try doing this kind of stance. I think this movement-based acting approach was refreshing for them as well. Takebe. In my personal experience, I still like the episodes when people like directors Osamu Kaneda and Hiroshi Butsuda were able to join in during Tokume Sentai Go Busters in 2012, but those were directors that made the best of their backgrounds in action or special effects direction. Director Kaneda's foundational way of thinking is that acting is also action, and that was reflected in his direction, so when Fukuzawa did it this time, I wasn't worried at all, and if anything, I was looking forward to it. It was impressive how much more adult-like it was than I expected. Even though Fukuzawa really excelled at it, we couldn't spend much time on action, and I'm sorry about that. Takishima. It was one where the characters were talking to each other a lot more than usual. Takebe. I think it was difficult for all the lead cast members to gather on episodes 35 to 36, even though it was a new director in the second half. Takishima. He was originally a suit actor too. He said that he didn't stop many shots while they were happening because he understands what it's like to be playing the roles. That way, it's easier to act than if you cut it short. So it's a longer take than usual, and you have a little more footage to work through. Takebe. I thought that when I was watching. Takishima. At the time when we did episodes 35 to 36, the cast had also come to the point where they grasped each of their own roles, so it fit well. Takebe. More than anything, because he has a career as an action director, he really excels at bringing the set together. Yoshikawa. The mood was incredibly cheerful on the sets for Fukuzawa's episodes. Takishima. Fukuzawa sincerely said it's a good and warm filming set, but in our point of view, it's something special of his. Takebe. The assistant director Koichiro Hayama and camera person Hideko Takeyama were candidates themselves too, since they did Sentai together for his debut,
and they helped Fukuzawa with this. The end result was good, and many people said they wanted to see Fukuzawa episodes again, so I'd say it was a success. And of course, Tatsuki episodes being what they are, the direction in that Heaven and Hell game was great. That was one that Yu liked doing too. It was an unexpected chance for him to team up with director Tatsuki that had barely happened before now. Only once in 01, episodes 42 to 43. Yoshikawa. It was near the end. He did the episode when Izu died from explosion, episode 32. TTFC. Director Tatsuki also filmed episodes 32 and 33 of 01, but Masaya Kakehi wrote the script for those specific episodes. Takebe. At the time when he was filming for Geats, there was a good balance with his work for Gotchard, but because director Tatsuki was also doing Kamen Rider Phi's 20th Paradise Regained, announced for this year's Golden Week, we worried if the timing was right. But it fit into the schedule right after Phi's and before Gotchard. We wanted director Tatsuki to do at least one set of episodes since he is a person who nurtures cast members. Yoshikawa. Actually, people like Khan said I wanted to work with the director Tatsuki more. At that point in time, he had been playing the role of Ace for over half a year, but in director Tatsuki's episodes he got a lot of new surprises, saying, "Is there anything like the way he does it?" Takebe. There were 4 directors who only did one set of episodes, guest directors so to speak, but we had a rotation beginning with the main director Nakazawa, then 2 directors Sugihara, Takayuki Shibasaki, and Sakamoto. It was well balanced. The winter movie was done by director Shibasaki, and the spin-offs and character song music videos by Sakamoto. TGFC. It's amazing that director Nakazawa is filming one episode, the summer movie, and the final episode. Yoshikawa. On the contrary, he was in charge of most of the chapter finales too. Especially in the first half, like with episodes 9 and 10, then 16 and 17. The director said, "I want to do the final episode with another one again." Takebe. All we can say is he's the main director, that's how it usually goes. However, he also helped a lot with making the script. In the summer movie and final episode, there were quite a few things that were changed based on his opinions. Speaking of the finale, we dared to make the timeline and other parts less straightforward, and that was director Nakazawa's idea. Geats is fundamentally supposed to be easy to understand, but he thought that, for the final episode, it would be good to leave some of the interpretation up to the viewers, so it turned as you saw. Takishima. The meeting with the director for the final episode was after the one for the movie's music. Takebe. The last episode to return to the TV series before the movie was also getting the finishing touches, and there were many close calls, but I think we were progressing relatively easily at that point in the year. We took care of our schedule anyway. I'm glad to some extent that we saved up money in the early part. Tsuyoshi Miyazaki had already joined as actor and director for the winter movie, and thinking about the progress of the TV series, I thought it would be difficult for Fujita to cover the movie. Of course, Fujita was inserted into the winter movie when he could do it, and I had strongly asked him to be in the summer movie for Geats. As long as you're doing that kind of work, it won't be easy, but still, there was a sense that he was doing as much as possible so that everybody could be happy. Actually, producer Taku Mochizuki also stuck with Revice, and it seems like a lot of things improved as the year went on. While getting handed the reins, improving dramatically was difficult, but he tried to improve little by little. If you pay attention, there are cases where the situation gets gradually worse for a project, so the table schedulized as we tried to prevent that from happening, so we made it all the way to the end while taking as many break days from filming as possible. This is a loaded paragraph. So if you didn't know, Revice, at the beginning of Revice's airing, like the first few months, a former assistant producer, who I'm not sure who she is, sued Toei for poor working conditions, including like unpaid overtime and sexual harassment, stuff like that, fun stuff. And this makes it sound like Taku Mochizuki was handed the show after the former chief producer, who if there is one, then I don't know who they are because they're not in the credits, even at the start. Yeah, I have no idea who that is, and I don't even know if we can know exactly what happened, but they're talking directly about, like, the importance of taking breaks and how Satoshi Fujita took on a lot of work, but they tried to prevent overwork from happening as much as possible. The implication here that Mochizuki was put in charge of Revise after the lawsuit happened is interesting because it wasn't made public until November of 2021. So either like the lawsuit happened and just wasn't public until a few months later, or I don't know. It seems possible, but I also don't know if Taku Mochizuki has been in charge of a show since Revise. I know he hasn't been in a Tokusatsu show since Revise, but he could have just been in a smaller Toei one, I really don't know. I'm getting sidetracked anyway. Takebe. Thinking about both Sentai and Rider has a storied history, but Sentai is longer, having had more continuous entries, so a lot has been established in its system. Beginning with the Event Planner 104, there is a large number of staff that have been continuously involved since old times on the Sentai side. However, Rider still isn't there. It's a characteristic of Rider to have our work change depending on the season. Changes in staff are also frequent, and we have things where the work doesn't flow automatically. So, Takishima, since this is your first time with Rider, you must have been bewildered, right? There are probably more things that an AP, assistant producer, has to think about and do than with Sentai. Takishima. That's right, but I also like working on the small things, so I'm fine with just doing that, unless it seems like I'm always doing it. Really, I can't go that way either. Takebe. This year, the first thing at the back of the script was a table for the writers who appeared that time, and the person who did that was Takishima. TGFC. Indeed, from a perspective like ours, that was very helpful too. Takebe. I think it was quite difficult, but it was very much needed. If new models were involved, there are new models was written in red letters like a price tag. Having that kind of thing in the script became common for the whole staff to do. Takishima. On-site work is always moving from the current production to preparation for the next ones, and so on. So even orders for small props can be irregularly left out sometimes. Accidentally falling into the mindset of, I think someone else will do it, is bad, so I tried to move it along, or to ask the supervisors to decide ahead of time too. I might have been a little pushy, I guess. Takebe, but I think that was fairly helpful on the sets. Takishima. Sentai has changed a lot, especially in these last few years, and there are many new components that seem to overturn the series' traditions. But we have a scheme that's been developed over decades of kaijin and demon attacks, so to some extent, I think we can still handle those changes. For example, when we say the next episode is a filler episode, they say, alright, a filler episode, or rather the things that seem necessary get prepared one after another after doing our preparation meetings. I guess those sort of things are different from Rider after all. Takebe, on the opposite side, the quantity of form changes and the like is special to Rider. There aren't many of those in Sentai. Takishima, right. Anyway, for myself, although I wonder, is it good that I did this much? A big part of myself is happy that I did so. Takebe, you also wrote the letters. Kyun's letters. Takishima, that was my writing too. I wondered if it was alright. Takebe, but weren't there additions within the staff to write the letters? Yoshikawa, yes. I failed it. I don't know why that's funny to me. It's really funny to me. Takebe, I asked Takishima to do most of the work that needed to be done by a deadline or that needed to be done as quickly as possible. From there, what was assigned to Yoshikawa was now done by Takishima. You're already doing it all by yourself. Takishima, no, not at all. I'd like to thank Bandai's design team too. Especially Takato Yamashita from Plex, who made Geats' design. He was great to work with. He responded quickly every time, even to the small requests. Takebe, he has excellent taste. With the sheer number of Kamen Riders, they were always able to design them to be differentiated without fail. TTFC. How about you, Yoshikawa? Please talk about what you noticed or felt as you shifted to working behind the scenes. Yoshikawa. First of all, I've interacted with many more people involved with making this show. Of course, I knew many staff members who came in when I was on the acting side as well, but I didn't concretely know what kind of work these people were doing at that point. More than that, there are also a lot of staff who aren't present while filming. There are many great people that just work in post-production, as well as the people at Bandai and Plex that I just talked about, and Takayuki Taketani, who designs the Yamato. There are the famous lines, "Nothing's happening in the conference room, it's at the filming set," but all of the staff members that don't come to the set put passion and love into the work, too. I don't think I've met all of them personally yet. I try to keep that in mind for the young people in the main cast because I have that knowledge. Of course, I think they are thankful for everything that the staff provides, but they come to think it for granted when they spend so much time in the same place. However, aren't, for example, the actors who don't properly memorize their lines just as troublesome as staff members who forget the filming equipment? When I realized that kind of thing, I tried to convey it. My water bottle just fell down. There, water bottle audio. Takebe, it's because our company's staff is all so kind. They all care about the actors a great deal, and they even do things normally done by assistants, but they don't mind. But the reality is that not all places are like that, so I don't want the younger newcomers there to get the misconception that this is a standard. They're the ones who will lose out in the distant future. I asked Yoshikawa to listen to their conversations, especially the young men. Because he is close in age to them, his past experience as a child actor can be put to good use. He deeply communicated with them, especially with Kan. He gave them movie recommendations too. Yoshikawa. Kan was very eager. There were times when we'd talk on the phone late into the night. He'd tell me, I still don't know how I'm supposed to perform this part in the script for the scene we're filming tomorrow. Still, I wonder if he found it difficult to listen to the directors at the same time. I don't know how helpful I was to him. One day he couldn't understand his own acting and said, Yoshikawa, do you have time later tonight? And I went along with him to dinner. Regarding the movie recommendations that Ms. Takebe talked about, he made sure to watch them and told me his own thoughts about them. In addition, he said things like, when this scene happens, I don't really get the meaning of that actor's performance. And I responded, this event happened, so that's why this character has this expression. And he responded, I see, immediately writing a note on his phone. Since he had little acting experience, he was eager to try and take in as much as he could. I think this is kind of wholesome, honestly, that Yoshikawa and Hideyoshi-kan have this sort of relationship. Takebe, I'm glad you feel that way. This isn't about anyone in particular, but today's young generation doesn't read books a lot. Personally, I think their way of reading the script also changes when you get them intimate with printed text. Yoshikawa, that's right. Because Move to Tears is written in stage directions, you will read that and cry while acting, but the truth is, it's more important to think about why the character is crying while playing the role. Takishima. In that area, for example, when it is director Tasuki, he's acting the actors themselves, right now, what feeling are you hitting with? Or why are you gesturing by raising your right hand? And he makes them think about it. After all, if you're not reading the script, you're going to move without knowing why. The newcomers start thinking about that going forward, and they develop little by little. Takebe, Rider and Sentai have shown schools in their sets often, but truly we teach that kind of thing and have them study it. Of course, we also include manners and fundamentals. Review 1. A lively group of writers. TGFC, you've just returned to talking about Kan, and since you had touched on the supporters and management side cast at the start, now I'd like to hear about the main cast other than Kan, if you could. Takebe, Ryuga Sato was inexperienced in acting, but he had interesting features in his looks and physical ability. Did she just call him hot? Yoshikawa, in video auditions at the start, his ratings were high and he was invited to move on to face-to-face. When I looked closely at the materials, Ryuga got an A from Takebe. So, it was our first time meeting him in person too. He was filled with wonder, and while other people were auditioning, he was saying things like, whoa. Well, the real person is fairly different from Keiwa. If something was said, he would immediately stop what he was doing. He's very responsive. Takebe, I feel like he fits in the role of the sharp one. I don't mean that in a bad way at all. He's very attentive and he completely understands things. Takishima, Director Nakazawa likes to make scenes where they're laughing a little bit, even in a serious episode. In times like that, he made a great fit for Keiwa. For the director, he decided that Ryuga could do it and left it to him. He was doing that at the Soba restaurant and even in the endgame in episode 48. Yoshikawa. He can put together scenes like that himself without being told in detail. I think that's a talent of his. Takebe, so as for Ryuga, I think it's just a matter of how he'll use that in the future. On the other hand, there will be scenes in the future where such responsiveness alone is not enough for what the directors ask, so sometimes he should be an acting fool, or rather, become deeply immersed in his role and grow even further. He's promising. Takishima. That's right. He has the ability to see himself objectively, so he can immediately come up with ideas like, if I do it like this, the people watching will like it. Of course, that can also be a strength, but I want him to go even further than that, because I think he can do that. Yoshikawa. Like Takebe and Takishima said, I think that new opportunities will open when you don't decide what suffices by yourself, and instead you look closer at your acting. When there is clearly room for growth, you want to do your best. Takebe. Next is Yuna Hoshino. How is she? I think she's had a strong image from the beginning. Takishima. After all, she was only a person who had a lot of activity in the YouTube and modeling worlds, and still young, so her professionalism is amazing. It seems like her mother said to always be aware of the people watching you, and she tightly follows that idea. Takebe. No matter what or when, she never lets her smile die. I don't think she can. Takishima. I think that she worked hard and energetically with such a small figure. There are definitely times when she gets tired, but she never lets that show on her face. Yoshikawa. She was 17 when filming started, and now she's 18. But even then, she was able to care for those around her so much, and she always kept them lively. Takebe. Regarding her acting, the only word I have is confidence. Stuff certainly gulped it too. Takishima. In things like her speech at the winter movie premiere, she seems nervous, which is surprising when you think about her background, but I guess she's honest at heart. Takebe. During the stage speeches for the summer movie, director Kamihori Ochi said, "The most improved one is Yuna," and she started crying with joy. Takishima. The Kurami family was amazing. Ryoko Yui as her mother and Shinji Kasahara as her father. Don't get me wrong, they're both acting monsters. She's also amazing for getting a hold of it without fail. Takebe. She definitely wanted to be an actress, and I'm sure that she cried with joy when her role was announced. Having that determination is great. Real life isn't Geats, but if Yuna keeps switching, then that wish will surely come true. Takishima. To say just one thing, I'm happy that she tried to keep the scene calm, but I say that when the moment is right, it's also good to not care about your surroundings and instead enter your own world and zone in. I guess that she's so kind that she can't help but look around her, as much as I think that I have a lot of thanks and encouragement for Yuna. Yoshikawa. Can I talk about Kazuto Mokuda? He was actually busy with work, and he couldn't attend auditions, but I liked him a lot and wanted to meet him, so I prepared a chance for him to try out on a day when he was available. Then he took that opportunity, and he was cast as Buffa, Michinaga. His answers on the audition questionnaire were interesting. For the question, "Are you good at a sport?" he calmly responded, "I can do anything." Also, during auditions, we met with 4 people who had taught Mokudai, but they kept changing the subject even though no one was asked about them. Like, oh, interesting, then how was this actor? He, like Yuna, was 17 at the time. Despite this, he was always confident and brazen, and I would think, what is this person's deal? This is so funny to me. Takishima. You said back then that it felt a little like Kita Komartine, who played the lead in Zenkaiger. I didn't specify the lead because I don't know his name. Takebe. That's true, I did say that. Takishima. Kita and Mokudai both listened well to what people said and are able to further improve based on those comments. By the way, when his manager asked how the auditions for Geats went afterwards, I replied, I got a good laugh out of it. Takebe. Mokudai was decided, and with Kan as Ace and Ryuga as Keiwa, it felt like the last piece of the male group was filled. Our opinions on who would get which one were divided until the end, and like I said at the start, Kan's Ace was something that we made a gamble on, but it turned out amazing. Takishima. Next is Tsumuri, Kokoro Ashima. Takebe. In regards to her, she seems to be a little unfit for a cheerful character during auditions, but Tsumuri was probably the only character on the GGP staff who would become an ally of Ace and company, so we wanted to give her a cheerful performance. She was tempted to perform that sort of character more mysteriously, but we kept saying be cheerful and it paid off. Before our eyes, she was established as a bright and sweet character. Director Nakazawa especially cared about that. Tsumuri was always cute in his episodes. Takishima. No matter what, Tsumuri would always get a lot of exposition lines, so we had a lot of trouble with that in the early days. But she got through that period wonderfully. Even so, she had many green screen shots, and on top of that, she had to say things that she hadn't known before, as if she knew them. I think that was difficult for her. Takebe. It's because Yuya loved Tsumuri too. Neon is a heroine too, but Tsumuri is a different kind of one. As the key person of the final arc, she showed a lot of growth over the year. I think she persevered well. At the beginning, she said, "If people remember the role of Tsundere better than they remember me, then I'll be happy," and that was striking to me. I need to make background music for part of this video, at least beginning from Minecraft, because I have that stuck in my head, and I need to impart that on everyone else here. Review 2. Second times in action. Takebe. For the characters other than the main 5, the key word in a sense was second job. They did their first job not as a writer, and by then it's easier to work with them because we know those people's abilities and personality to some extent, and the client would be more willing to work with us because they can think that we like their previous performance. To cite something specific, Niram's Ryo Kitamura and Winharura's Tsubasa Sakiyama both appeared together in the movie stage The Shinigami Incident, directed by director Shibasaki, and because of that, we thought about having them appear in Geats too. Daichi's Gai Goto was in the stage, so Kamen Rider Zangetsu, and Fuku Suzuki was also in the movie Saberin Zenkaiger Superhero Senki Takishima. Keikiro Shundo is in Kamen Rider Amazons. Takebe. Shinji Kasahara was a guest role in Amazons 2, but in terms of Toei shows, Mirai Sentai Time Ranger was before then. Takishima. Girori's Oshinari too, he appeared in a movie for Kamen Rider Wizard directed by Nakazawa. DTFC. Speaking of connections to director Nakazawa, Haruka Kuro from Kaito Sentai Lupin Ranger vs. Keisatsu Sentai Punch Ranger appeared as a guest in the summer movie. Takebe. In that sense, this year had a pretty big group of returning actors, but everyone was happy to lend us their help for as much as they wanted. Everyone certainly delivered performances that exceeded expectations. If you think about it, the framework of taiga dramas and serial dramas depends on their many returning actors, but in Tokusatsu, the mental images of the characters performed are strong, so it's hard to call back people who are playing former regulars. Of course, even though new people are cast in the lead roles, Yu has many reliable abilities and alumni, so there should be no difficulty with calling on those people again. So, Takishima and Yoshikawa, whatever work you help with from now on, I want you to talk to the cast members that you met in Geats when the time comes. Also, we didn't talk about action very much, so I think the greatest outcome we'll have to talk about from Geats is its action. The two treasures of the show are action director Fujita and Yuji Nakata, who played Geats. Yoshikawa. I've been watching the Kamen Rider series for more than 20 years, but I've never seen action that cool. As a Rider superfan, I really enjoyed seeing action that was still new to me. The shots that Fujita did were amazing, and Nakata's Geats was always sexy. Takebe. We always worry about how to do action and what to do to make things feel new. When I entered the position of chief, I have to find a replacement for last year's action director, Michihiro Takeda for Kamen Rider Kiva, Fukuzawa for Go Busters, Fujita and Geats was that kind of aim. There were a lot of times we said, "You're doing your best with the action," but I think we were able to revolutionize action in Rider thanks to him, and it had a bit of impact on other works too. Like, for example, the Ikemen boom at the time of Ryuki and the popularity of voice actors and suit actors for Den-O. Those things changed and are changed, spreading to the Sentai and Ultraman seasons that started there. I think that these tokusatsu programs establishing new practices is how you say they changed. There's been a reaction to the new beginning that Geats' action created, and I look forward to the action that Fukuzawa will build on it with in Gotchard. Takishima. I think it's good that there's a cause and effect with Fujita's action. In the script, you write the beginning of battles and which side wins in the end, but you don't really point out minute details related to physical movements or the items they use. Because of this, Fujita makes up everything that happens after the battle starts. The enemy weapons are troublesome, so they block the arms a lot, or they took a hit and lost their balance, but at that rate they barely escaped on their feet, things like that. Without the fights on screen stopping, the battles have temperature and are always incredible. Like Geats and Buffa's fight in episode 32, I thought it was their final battle. Honestly, at the beginning, I wondered if they would get short of breath somewhere if the fights were this densely packed. Takebe. It was amazing from episodes 3 and 4 and onwards. Takishima. That's right. Well, I thought he was trying to do a special showcase for the start of the program, or a one-time highlight reel, but it just kept going. Takebe. Fujita really thinks about things thoroughly, so when the summer movie arrived, he seemed tired since it was at the same time as the TV series, but he wanted to do the summer movie himself no matter what, so I respected his wishes and let him do it. Review F. Reiwa Riders Continuing to Battle. Takebe. We have staff capable of filming the new actors in interesting ways on writer sets. I think that filming the famous experienced actors, well, isn't as difficult because they each have their own potential, but truthfully, it's challenging to make the newcomers look good. However, the first episode of each series is made possible with the director, the cinematography team, and the lighting team. When you add in the fact that they support these actors as they grow, I can seriously respect them and say, our company's staff is incredible, with honesty. But there were times when even the main characters Keiwa and Nan didn't appear, and Ace couldn't let his guard down either, even though he was a star. But how did the cast handle this? Takishima. About that, the one that was most worried every time was Dai Goto. He would check a new script and go, oh, Daichi is still there, thank goodness. Compared to Goto, everyone who played the main writers wasn't worried about it. TTFC. When the series continues like this, it might become a tendency of sorts for them to not worry about it. Like, I guess this important of a character won't die. Of course, it's still interesting to have exceptions. Takebe. After all, during Kamen Rider Geats 20 years ago, it was different in many ways. That time there weren't exceptions, so when the next script came, the first thing everyone did was check if they were alive or dead. They had a hunger for success. That's something you needed to have in order to grow, so we want today's kids to have that knowledge too. And this is where it clicks that Naomi Takebe has been a producer for both Geats and Ryuki, so for her to be in both of the Battle Royale seasons, and Gaim, that can't be a coincidence, and that's really cool. TTFC, over the last 20 years, the ways viewers regard TV itself has also changed. Because of that, us at TTFC are also supported by a lot of members, but there's also an established way to enjoy streaming dramas. Takebe. To get them to continue watching one year-long TV series, you can't make careless decisions. It wasn't like this in the old days, but now there are already plenty of attractive media outside of television, so we have to do things to advance against competition. Kamen Rider is a strong brand, but that alone isn't enough to get people to watch it. The way we make trailers and things like that are planned out to the furthest extent possible. We can't let them forget about the show in the week leading up to the next episode. Even if it's not the best, they will continue watching it if it continues to stay at the top of their recommended lists. To this end, we did everything we could within the production, and we also did everything we could to promote the show and create buzz. So I also asked Takishima and Yoshikawa to keep working on it. In the extreme, you can start anywhere. If you know about the work Kamen Rider Geats and you're interested in it, you can watch it. I'm realizing that this effort has never been as important in the past. Our time will be up soon, but do the two of you have something you want to talk about? Yoshikawa. Because it's the first work I've been in charge of, I think there are still many parts I'm not helpful for, but the other day when I went to drink together with director Nakazawa, he said, as for Khan's growth, you've become a good mentor for him. Without thinking, I asked, Director, are you drunk already? But I was already crying. Khan was a good guy, and I think I had good chemistry with him, but to hear those words coming from the main director of my first project, I don't think I'll ever forget that. Takishima, you might be nominated as the person who mentors the lead actor in the next work you're involved with, too. Takebe, Director Nakazawa was incredible as well. I think he also saw that point. After all, he has a wide field of vision over the people he works with. Yoshikawa, I already talked about my personal history, but I was really happy with the many Kamen Rider names I devised, beginning with Tycoon, then Glare, Gazer, and Regad. Because English is my specialty, I was also interested with the English translation of the Desire card and the opening and the like. As a big Kamen Rider fan, if I died tomorrow, I wouldn't regret anything. And even if I did die, Tycoon's name would remain! It was truly a privilege to be part of this year. Takebe, you also came up with the message at the very end, Ace with us. Yeah, English is a specialty, except you might be a little too overconfident there, Yoshikawa. Takishima, I have the character songs. Takebe, the character songs? People seem to think that I do the character songs, but I don't. Takishima, taking advantage of the fact that Takebe has that reputation in the work she's involved with, I made a lot. I had only worked on Sentai shows up to now, so it was my first time working with Avex, but they also had a wide range of artists. The music producer Mayu Ida is also very good at taking charge of the ordering process, and the art ideas I conveyed to her were realized as songs at a terrific resolution. While discussing the lyrics, I came to understand the characters better, and it was fun work. All the directors paid great attention to the music videos they made too, so I definitely like the fans of Geats who are reading this to check them out. Takebe. Everyone in the cast will be singing in the nationwide final stage as well, so please also look forward to that. Speaking of, the other day there was a lot of excitement in the Summer Movies Kansai campaign. I was surprised by that, but at the same time it made me happy. Yoshikawa. Kan is from Kyoto, so he probably said, "I'm home" in his speech. But really, there was so much excitement that the meeting hall shook. Takebe. I'm relieved that Geats has provided good results in television ratings, box office scores, and toy scales. Especially the second half from the beginning of the year onwards, which saw an increase, made it worth everyone's effort. When you've been in this profession for this long, you see some cases where the hard work doesn't amount to anything, so in that sense I'm extremely grateful. Even though we've announced the final stage and Visa Next, there are still many other Geats-related projects in the works, so I would appreciate your continued support. And that's the whole thing. That was over an hour. Oh my god. I didn't expect it to be that long. Okay. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, I was doing that entire thing unscripted, all the commentary, like zero preparation. I just wanted to get this out, because I wanted to share the production symposium with other people, and if this does well, I'll do the other ones that I've translated. The only Reiwa producer symposium that I haven't translated is Sabers. At first because I just wanted to avoid spoilers, but now I think I don't really care about that. So, yeah, if people really want Sabers, then I'll do that as well. It'll take like a few weeks, because these take forever. I'm learning again. Anyway, how did you like that? I worked very hard on this translation. I have spent like this entire day recording for it, if you couldn't tell. I'll see you next time. Yeah, bye.